So hello, everyone. I'm Brasspeed. Here joined by Helios. Say hi to everyone, Helios.
Oh, I'm just on voice.
Yeah. So what you're seeing here is I'm gonna be on the left side. I'm gonna be playing Peggle Deluxe, and on the right side, I'm gonna be playing Peggle Knight, and we're gonna be doing both of those at once. Which is going to be a very interesting run. A bit more of a challenge, um, a challenge run, I would say. But it's going to be fun, hopefully. So I'll make the files real quick, and then we'll get going. So the time starts when I click the first adventure button. Yeah, I'm gonna give a countdown. 3, 2, 1, and go.
Awesome.
For those of you who are not familiar with this game, in Peggle you basically play through a big pachinko board. Each level has its own shape, and we have to clear out all of the orange pegs here to actually beat the level. Now this is a bit of now this is already quite challenging to do quickly when you're playing one game, because the position of these orange pegs is going to be randomized for every time you play, which makes the run pretty interesting. A lot of sort of improvised gameplay, and yeah, I think that's probably enough for an intro. I want to give commentary over to Helios for most of it, because playing one game while doing commentary turns out it's already tough enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna say we both got stream experience, and despite this being, it's a very fun casual game. A lot of people have said I myself grew up playing Peggle and then rediscovered it through our famous friend Doug the Peggle community brought this game kind of back to life in the spotlight. And it's a very fun game to just play casually, but the speedruns of it can be particularly intense, I would say, and so we just really hype them up, but it's also tricky, right? You're just playing like a pachinko game where you're shooting these balls to hit all the orange pegs, but as Brassby was saying, because the oranges are randomized, you can prepare as much as you want for a level, and you still have to fully concentrate on it the entire time to make sure you're watching. It's kind of like a mini resource management, right? If you look on the left side, you'll see that there's like a ball counter for how many you have left. Both games have different amounts, right? There's different amounts of pegs left on each board. The shapes of them are different. You might be finishing one level, like right here, finishing one level, and then the other one's just sitting there waiting to be done. So when you're doing one game at a time, it's less tricky, obviously, because you can devote your full focus onto one level. But when you're playing not only two of the same game at the same time, this is two of the different games at the same time. So really, both games kind of fight for your attention at the same time, and it makes for a fun speedrun. I haven't done this in a while, but this is a pretty fun one. So, yeah.
I actually somehow in playing both of the levels I managed to get a really hard pixel shot on the left side.
Not to say I saw that there, yeah. So, in terms of like speedrunning lingo, Brash just talked about a pixel shot. So, what's both nice and bad about Peggle speedrunning is the fact that the oranges are always like randomized. The pegs themselves are always in the same place. So every time you boot up the game, you always see the same exact placements. The difference is where the oranges are. Also nice is that this is actually a physics game. That's all it is. So what we can do when we're trying to speedrun this game is, while you can technically shoot anywhere you want on the board, it turns out that if you shoot in the same exact spot every single time, the game is deterministic. So you'll end up getting the same type of shot as long as you have the same shape of the level. which led to the development of these openers, is what we called them. It's very, not very creative, but it works. Where if you shoot in the same spot of a level, or you do so, basically, like the first version of these were called tap shots, and they're a bit easier for beginners. Is you just move your mouse up to the top left or top right of the screen. And I don't know how many of them Brass uses. Here's one of them right there on the left side, Peggle Deluxe. All the way up on the left side, tap one time to the right, and you'll always get this same shot here. Which it may hit a different amount of oranges, but will always hit the same pegs, which can be very good for, planning out your level. You'll know you'll always hit these ones, so you don't have to focus on them, and so on. The other version, the more advanced strat, called pixel shots. We have the benefit of these games being, I don't want to say old because it makes me feel old, but these are from 2007 and 2008 respectively. So the background art and the pegs themselves aren't the highest resolution. And depending on your monitor and like your Windows settings, you can actually fairly easily see individual pixels on the pegs, on the background art. And we found out the same rules apply. If you aim at the same pixel, the pixel perfect events here, aim at the same pixel every single time, you're always going to get the same shot. And so that led to like a new breed of openers called the pixel shots. And then you'll see a lot of them. I think Peggle Knights is about to do one here on the right side. There, yeah. So aim at that spot, tap a few times, get the same shot. So those are they're very tricky. There's essentially like two style guides on how to play. Some people use the tap shots, some people prefer the pixels. So it's really cool that like in this simple little game there's actually like a few strategies on attacking these levels to be able to beat them pretty routinely. Or you can just have fun. That's the beauty of Peggle speedrunning, is that there isn't a lot of not many skips, there's not many tricks. It's just kind of playing Peggle but fast. So oh yes, yeah, the sound, it's a very satisfying game. That's what makes it so fun to speedrun too, is that there's just beauty and simplicity, Background art is nice, the game design, the sound design is beautiful. Fun little game. It makes it worth grinding for like several hours a day to just get your silly little time on the leaderboard.
Fair enough.
And we can see here that there's also the funny thing about both of these games is that Peggle Knights actually has 5 more levels than Deluxe. But as we see here, Peggle Knights is actually slightly ahead of Deluxe here. So, kind of in tune with what we were saying earlier, even though, you have to focus on both games at the same exact time, so one might pull ahead over the other. It's pretty common in a speedrun of Peggle to lose at least once in a run, if not more, even at the highest level. A lot of us still manage to lose levels just because it's so, a lot of us, is kind of a debate between, is it all luck, or is it all skills, or some luck? There's definitely a luck RNG aspect to it, especially if you get some really bad, like, orange placements that can just, again, it's resource management. If you have to spend a lot of time getting a tricky shot, there goes all your resources to get the rest of the shots. So, you can see here Knights is pulling ahead a little bit on the right side there. It being the longer game. So,
on top
toss up to
having more
finishes
levels,
first.
there's another sort of aspect to it, which is that Knights just has harder levels on average. Also, shoutouts to missing this tap shot, whoever misses a tap shot. So yeah, you'll see here throughout almost every single level. I don't think we have a level that doesn't. Oh, there's a level or two that doesn't have an opener because they're pretty bad. Some rough levels ahead. It's always kind of funny when we talk about speedrunning. We have our least favorite levels that are pretty tricky and kind of universally not liked by most runners. However, for a casual player, the levels are pretty fun. I actually personally think that Peggle Knights is a more fun game to play, but like Brass said, it's more difficult because the level design just is not as conducive to speedrunning as Peggle Deluxe is. So obviously, this game was not built with speedrunning in mind, so it's fair, but it's kind of funny the contrast in the game sometimes where
Peggle Knights has a lot more like going for it. You know, it's got more. There's even like things beyond this speedrun, like challenges and stuff we won't get into unless we want to. But the Knights levels tend to be a little bit more difficult. They're trickier shapes. It's also less strat hunted. Deluxe, being the more popular game, has a lot more strategies going for it. You know, levels will have often like 2, 3, even a couple different ways to get through these levels, from like easy ways to intermediate ways to literally just play the game, literally just play the level. Again, that's the beauty of Peggle. So Deluxe speedruns tend to be easier sometimes, but also do not be underestimated, because the end game of Deluxe is very tricky. Both games have at least one level that we call a run killer, even at the highest level of gameplay. We'll see those whenever they show up. Very tricky, almost impossible to strategize types of levels. For some good stream content, that's for sure. Many a run have died to some of these levels that look innocent. So, thankfully those are they're pretty far into the run, so you can get some momentum building, but it's also pretty tricky when you get there. It's like, oh no. I mean, the harder stuff at the end of the game makes sense, but it can go speedrun an hour in. Good work here. This level on Peggle Deluxe that's coming up here, 2-5, is one of those run killers. It's less so now. We are getting a bit better at figuring out how to do shots on these levels. This introduces, I can't remember if Knights, I don't believe has any of these moving pegs yet. It's off the top of my head. But
2-2 and 2-3 have some.
Right, they do have some, yeah. So
but
these good.
To Knights credits, there's fewer levels where kinda everything is moving. You can kinda tell that when Deluxe does moving, when like Deluxe on the left does moving elements, they kinda go all out on it.
The Knights has a lot more subtler movements, which is, it's both good because less things are happening, but it's also like these subtle movements can be kind of tricky sometimes. Yeah, these moving pegs are the bane of strat hunting, right? On ones like these, they're kind of nice because they're circles. But again, this is, like I said, it's an old game. We can see the pixels on the board, which means that sometimes these pegs aren't perfectly aligned, or the circles aren't perfect, complete circles here. So often when you try to plan out a shot, it may not go exactly as you want because, first off, your brain's having to adapt to the moving pegs themselves. And also, they're not perfect shapes either. So, makes strat hunting levels like this one here on the left pretty difficult. And often, you know, okay, Brass has got to focus here on this one. Should be alright shot there, should be fine. There we go, perfect. That is a fun way to save a level. Anytime you get a ball back into that bucket at the bottom, we haven't talked about that quite yet, you get the ball back. You get a free ball. You can also get free balls through several other ways, such as racking up all your points. As you can see, as shots happen, if you watch where the ballotron is, the green bar will go up. If you get that all the way up to the top, you get the free ball. So often, the strategies, and this is popularized by by Britcha, another speedrunner. One of those things that's always been there. It's a core game mechanic, but actually is very helpful in speedrunning. Is the fever meter on the right side. As you hit more of the orange pegs, that you see there's a ×2, ×3, 5, and 10. That essentially multiplies your score. It's a multiplier. So when you're trying to beat these levels quickly, oftentimes you just kind of beeline it for all the oranges, and then you realize there's several left, and then you're out of balls to be able to finish the level. It's like, oops. That's where the multiplier comes in. So you can use that to more, how do you phrase it? How to be more careful with getting free balls so that you have more shots to finish the level. So whether that's chaining a lot of oranges together early on in the level to get that up really high really quickly, just pray that it works is also sometimes, like I said, RNG, sometimes it comes down to that. There's a lot of skill involved, as we saw at the end of that level there. You can time
usually if I'm
bucket.
If I do normal runs where I can actually pay attention to the structure of the level,
Yeah.
then one of the main ways, one of the more advanced ways I can like make sure I get more free balls is to sort of section off part of the level so that I have like a big, a lot of material in like part of the level available, so that I can get so that I can attempt to go for a free ball there once my multiplier is like high enough for it.
Yeah, at the start of the level, it takes... I don't even know how... There's times where you can get that multiplier up on like the first couple shots. It's a lot harder to do because you don't get as many points. But when that multiplier is all the way up at times 10, it takes like 1 orange and I think like 3 or 4 blues to get a ball back. So, very advantageous to strategize using that to be able to get it. This is one of the coolest shots here. This is a pixel shot we're going to see at Knights that will get... slides. There we go. Perfect. Very satisfying. This level was one of the few in Knights that I think is really fun. You know, we talked about Knights having more difficult levels. Also has some more levels, some more fun levels, I think. And this is one of the most fun ones just because of that slide. Again, talking about the game is very satisfying. Well, there you go. There's a couple like that we'll see here throughout the game. But, so there's a surprising amount of strategy here in this little pachinko game from PopCap. So, part of the fun. Again, as we can see, it looks like Deluxe is actually caught up a little bit, and there we go. Here's our community's waking up here. We got our fans coming in. So yeah, Deluxe is actually pulled ahead of Knights by a level. So as we'll probably see this handoff happen a couple times. Hope I saw Brass going for a funny shot there. The bucket is also a physical object, so if he's going for what I think he's trying to go for there on the right side. I wasn't going for it. So sometimes if you have so this was a fairly easy one because we could hit the orange directly. You can actually kick shots up off of the bucket sometimes. It's a really fun way to end levels, but it can help in a pinch if you're down to 1 ball and there's a lot of things in the way and you don't feel confident about clearing everything out. Top froze. Uh-oh. I guess I'm by myself here. All right, hello. So, what can we talk about? Okay, so yeah, kicking the bucket. So, sometimes you can kick off of the bucket and then hit it up into pegs that are hard to reach. We can also talk... No more comms, it looks like. Okay, I guess... Hopefully I won't talk over them then. Okay. Okay, so I guess we can troubleshoot this live if we'd like to, otherwise we'll just keep going as it is. Also in complete silence here. Alrighty. So, it'd be a event without some tech difficulties, right? So, the other thing that we can talk about with Peggle that we didn't really talk about for the first couple categories, for the first couple level chunks here, is that the game is broken up into five levels with different masters. So as you can see on the left one in Peggle Deluxe, right now we have Cat Tut, who is kind of, unfortunately a bit of a joke in the community. He's a great character, but not so much for speedrunning the game. Each master will give you a certain power. Cat Tut's power is extending the edges of the ball bucket. So as you can see right there, when you hit the green pegs in the levels, ball bucket gets a lot wider. Now, this is great for casual play because if you're having trouble getting into the free ball bucket or you're finding that you're always like just missing it, sometimes it'll hit the edge. Okay, that one just went straight in. That's really good at this game. We'll see if we get a shot here where it just bounces off of it. That was a miss. Up to luck sometimes. But essentially it's just a physical barrier on the bucket that helps you get more free balls. However, this is quite slow, often leads to shots that take 10 extra seconds each just because they're spending extra time bouncing around. A pretty easy way to lose time in a speedrun. So sometimes an interesting strategy is to avoid getting the master's powers if you know that they're going to be detrimental to your speedrun. This is especially true at like the higher level gameplays where if you spend like a couple shots with a few seconds extra, you're burning like a minute or two per run. So, and some interesting strategies there. On the right side, we have Renfield, the pumpkin. Happy Halloween month, by the way. His power is to make a spooky ball, which, as we'll see here in a second, or maybe I might be slightly delayed here, but basically the ball goes down the bottom of the map and then pops back out the top for another shot. What's interesting with his power is that actually in Peggle Deluxe and Peggle Knights, it is slightly different. We'll get to another character later in the game called who is sort of like a built-in aimbot for the game. You know, he'll kind of correct your shots for you to make them better. Deluxe, Brentfield's power has a little bit of that, and therefore he's slightly better. But in Knights, he doesn't have that as far as we know, and so sometimes he'll just fall directly down instead of slightly re-aiming the shot that comes back in the top. So even between the games, the masters are slightly different, and when we get to the different ones later on in the game here, we can talk about their differences as well. We've also passed through Bjorn and Jimmy Lightning, some fan favorites. I personally like Bjorn's character. Bjorn helped us with a super guide that helps you see where the shot's going to go after the first peg, which is one of, it's often slept on. A lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't help, it doesn't go super fast. But it's great for aiming really complex shots that you'd have to guess otherwise. So, very powerful master, but not the fastest. And Jimmy Lightning would give you a multi-ball, where when you hit the green, 2 balls pop out. And they'll hit twice as many things, you'd hope, in the level, often making for a very quick but unpredictable level. So it can be a blessing and a curse sometimes. Jimmy runs are very fun. Now, it looks like we're on the last level here. Anytime you have a -5 means you're on the last level of those masters. Doesn't particularly mean it's the hardest level. Often you'll see like the level here on Cat Tuts is one of the easiest ones of his split here. Renfield's probably one of the more difficult ones here. But we'll let Brass finish up here. You can see there's just a lot of stuff to clear out of the way sometimes. These oranges are stuck at the bottom without an easy way to get them. This also is introducing a concept of these portals. Thinking of portals here. Knights has a lot more of these. I think Deluxe only has 2 levels with the portals. At the top of my head, I might be missing a couple. But these portals basically just teleport the ball to a different part of the map, kind of like an old pinball game, fall in the hole, pop out somewhere else. Emulating that. Makes for, again, very interesting speedruns. You can plan shots through them, but more often than not, it's just kind of hoping it goes in and does something good afterwards. So there is a bit of hope in these speedruns sometimes for, like, oh, I hope this shot really works. As we can see in Peggle Knights, the game order is slightly different. Both games are actually currently tied right now. They're both on 4-1. And Cat Tut just showed up on Knights. So Knights order is a little bit different, which when you're running this particular category day and night, makes for some interesting, mental gameplay where it's like, okay, you just got done with Tut 5 levels in a row, and usually you'd be done with him. Now you've got him for 5 more. And this is probably one of the most, I don't want to call it the most difficult split in Knights, but this is where a lot of runs often go to die, because these levels are very difficult. There's only one really fun level in Cat Tut split here. That's 4-4, which is one of my favorite levels in Knights. Otherwise, the rest are very difficult. 4-5 is notorious for ending runs. So we'll see what happens when we get there. I believe in Brass. But on the left side, we have one of the more favorite characters in Deluxe. We have Splorkin as an alien. And his power is to basically that the green peg will explode. And all the pegs around it, whether they're blue, orange, pink, whatever color, they'll all be lit up. So it's a very nice power, but often requires some kind of RNG aspect. So here we can see very wide range of pegs just gone. However, that can mess up your planning sometimes. If the green's not in a great spot, then oops, there goes your strategy. Now you have to, on the fly, be ready to adapt to it. And if you're speedrunning with Splork, oftentimes you can reset the levels at any time that you want. Obviously, you will lose time for that, but if you're just playing for fun, resetting for greens is often a thing that we do. Sometimes for the other masters, say we just want to hit one on an opener, we'll reset for it. But Splork is very dependent on the placement of the greens. So we'll often spend a couple quick resets at the beginning of a level to see if we can get an advantageous spot for the green. Otherwise, we just run it. We may see that here. Pretty good, though, for that level there. So this is incredibly intense. That's one of the fun things about this game. Is at its core, it's a very simple game. It's it's just pachinko. with some extra steps, but it is surprisingly intense as a speedrun. I don't know what it is. It's just you get so hyped into it, and people get so hyped into it. Like I said, I think I speak for a lot of us, myself included, that while the Peggle community existed well before this happened, Doug, the speedrunner on Twitch, really helped to bring this game into like a new era, because so many people just want to sit down and just watch this game. It's so intense, trying to be like, it's nail biting sometimes, being like, oh god, we're gonna get this shot, oh no, the level's about to lose, what are we gonna do? And it comes through. So it makes for it's a surprisingly entertaining game. I've been in this community for almost 2 years now, and it's never gotten stale. It's gotten rough, being like, oh, I don't want to run this game anymore, I'm tired of it. Because it can be very stressful at times, and like if you're not getting any like progress or you keep losing levels, it's like, okay. But you always come back to it. It's always a pleasure. So, oh, let's see. That's a perfect green right there. So we talked about the green placement for Splork on the left side there. That one was perfect to get that weird shape that was left over. That would have cost a lot of effort to try to clear out everything there. Made easy work of it. Here's one of my favorite levels in Knights. This is a pixel shot that we're going to do here that should get that whole slide. On the right side, we have another shot. Pixel that I invented. And we'll get this other slide right. Yes. Yeah. Often the most fun levels in these games are the ones that have those very satisfying slides. You know, they both give you a little bit of a second or two to breathe. Again, talking about these runs are pretty intense, and they're just satisfying. It's a nice, very well made game. Here's a level where I think we just saw, I was looking at Knights over there, but I think we just saw some resetting for the greens on Peggle Deluxe on the left side there. And I get spots where those greens will just blast through those entire circles. This level is one of Deluxe's worst. It's level design, it's fun, but for speedrunning it's very tricky. And when you're trying to concentrate not only on one game, but 2 games, it can be very difficult to be focused and make shots that'll go well here, partially because you don't know quite what the shots are going to do here. You have to adapt a lot for this level with just whatever it hands you. Because of all the spinning, no clear shot at the bucket for freeballing. Then here is the famous 4-5 in Knights. So we see that Knights did pull ahead here. That's because, again, these Splork levels they're not slow. You can't play these very quickly, but they often are slower ones of the runs, on the account of how much mental planning you have to do in order to get through the split sometimes. Looks like we are going to be, we're more than fine here now. So it looks scary for a bit, and that's what part of what makes this game really fun, is sometimes you'll be fine, you're just having a blast playing through the game, and then suddenly you'll be down to like a couple oranges and like you're in a very bad situation trying to get out of the level. And so you have to switch from like, oh, this is great, this game is great, to, oh my god, about to lose mode very quickly. And we did it perfectly here. So, making good work of Knights 4-5 here, though. As we can see, there's Cat's Power actually being advantageous for a level like this. Sometimes it is best, even though it is a speed run, to slow down and think about what you have to do. So this looks like it's a safe level, but again, you never know. Especially with a difficult level like this. A lot of moving pegs, a lot of moving blockers, things in the way that are just hard surfaces you can't get around. Where it looks like we are doing pretty good. However, I'll try not to jinx it here. You can see, a good shot can just get interrupted completely out of plan. Oh, that was almost a perfect shot there for the super long shot. So we also have these style points you'll see pop up sometimes, like the free ball bucket will give you an extra 5,000 points. If you manage to hit eggs across the board from each other, you'll get either a long shot or a super long shot. You're talking about doing actual challenges of the game, that's really important. This is a fun level. So now you can see we have 2 Splorks in different sections of the game here. So Knights is in the 5th category, Deluxe is in the 4th category, but they're both Splork. So this is when this type of run's at its most fun, I think, is when you have the same master at once. Especially because it's just more fun, but also you have less mental switching. You're not trying to run 2 powers at the same time. They're both Splork, right? However, in Knights, Splork's radius is a bit smaller, unfortunately. We're not entirely sure why the devs decided to do that, but they did. Splork was nerfed in Peggle Knights a little bit, so a lot of the same planning that goes into Deluxe of, I can definitely reach that one, just won't happen in Knights, which is kind of tricky, especially when you're running them at the same exact time. When you're running the game separately, you can kind of switch between them easily, mentally, but it's like, we have to plan for that. Now we have a favorite. This is Claude the Lobster. His power is to basically, we talk about this game is based on pachinko. Claude is based on just regular pinball. He'll give you, as we'll see here when he hits a green here in a second, these are some really good openers. Ooh, that we unfortunately missed that one there. That was supposed to arc back over on those slides. Thankfully, there's not a lot of oranges at the bottom to have to clear out down there. We'll see what the plan is here. Now we're making quick work of the Knights. Knights Splork levels actually are pretty fun. I think they're a bit better than Deluxe. Still tricky, especially the next one, 5-3, coming up here. But making very quick work of those, pulling almost over a level ahead now in Knights, which is good because, remember, we don't know which game's going to end first. Knights is more levels, but it's also ahead in the speedrun right now. So, anyone's game, even though they're both Brash's game. As we can see there in Deluxe right now, those flippers on the sides of the levels, they are user controlled. So it says click the flip there. Thank you for the game helping me commentate. Anytime the ball hits those flippers, you can click them and they'll flip it back up to the level, just like pinball. So this is great. Oh, that's a good shot there. Now this is a rough spot. See that orange is buried down there. Let's see how Brass handles this. Looks like we're gonna... Oh, that's a good shot. Definitely planned, I assume. Now we have a little bit of a wonky shot there, that orange. And we're good. Nice. Brass knows what they're doing. They've been doing this. Here's our good friend. Part of the Peggle lore, if you will, of these games is that the masters, they all have names, right? We have Claude the Lobster, we have Splork, Splorkin is his name. They all have their names built into the game, but we spent enough time just going into these levels, right? These are just 2D background art. You see these characters a lot. We slowly just started descending into giving background characters names because we see them so often. Oftentimes they're spur of the moment names. Someone just comes up with like, oh hey, look, we always see this fish. He looks like a Gerald, right? And then it just sticks. So this is Gerald the fish. We'll see if Gerald the fish's power, in quotes, is activated here. As you can see, he's moving. He's not in the background actually, though, as we'll see here in a second. Moves to the other side of the level. This is a unique level on Deluxe. The further into the level you get, into the game you get, you'll have levels that sometimes have gimmicks, others will just be regular levels. This one has Gerald the fish, who whenever you boop him, just move to the other side of the level. And almost hit him again there. You can see sometimes it'll work out good, other times he'll block your last shot here, except Claude, that counted as a kick the bucket. That's interesting. Sometimes you'll get weird like, oh, that was cool, types of shots like that. So, a fun mini thing to do at runs to try to beat the level without hitting Gerald. He's a friend. But oftentimes, when you're speeding through the game, it's just like, alright, we'll just get through the level. He's there to help us. We're burning through Knights here, wow. Yeah, Knights Splork these last couple levels, 1-3 through 5-3. Oh, there's another really good kick the bucket shot there. Splork levels are very fun to get through. Once you're through the bad levels, the fun ones really stand out. That's what I think Knights often gets a worse rep in the community, not because it's a bad game. We kind of jokingly call it that sometimes. It's definitely more difficult. But I do think that Knights deserves a lot more credit. It is some of really fun levels. You just have to get through the really hard ones first. Like there's a very fun slide there that an opener was able to set up. All these openers are available as like documents on speedrun.com, where if anybody's ever interested in playing this game, and you absolutely should, it's like $5 on Steam if I remember. So this is like a $10 stream right here with both games. you can do these openers too. Remember, this game is deterministic. So all of these strategies, it's very different from other speedrun games where you have to learn all like the movement patterns and the 3D environments and everything. This is just, click a few times, get your really cool shot. It's a very beginner-friendly speedrun game that you get better at by just playing it normally. Very open to everybody. And there are a few free Peggle games. Yeah, like Peggle Extreme is Peggle has done a few collaborations with other games before. More people seem to be familiar with Peggle World of Warcraft Edition, which is it's a couple levels built by the devs to be themed around World of Warcraft. And it was actually, I can't remember if it was released as part of World of Warcraft or was built into the game somehow. But that was a fun collaboration between them. There's Peggle Extreme, which is based on like Valve games, so like Half-Life, Portal. And it's that one's actually free on Steam, very easy to grab. And we don't talk about Peggle 2. So it exists. So does Blast. But, as we can see here, we again have a double Claude. But we're on different level packs here. So Knights is on to the 6 levels. So 6-1 here. These are some stinkers. Claude's levels in Knights are very difficult. So especially, we'll see, like we have an infamous one called Eiffel Power that has been known to end speedruns as well. But Deluxe Claude is generally one of the better categories. There's a lot of terminology when you're trying to cast 2 games at the same time that makes this interesting as well. Bad enough for Brass trying to run these games. Yeah. It's an information overload, which is it's exciting, but also like oof, it can be a lot at sometimes. So only we can still hear Brass's commentary on it. Making good work of the Deluxe side. Give it a thumbs up if you're having fun. I don't know which game to watch. Yeah, so as you can see here, so both games are running at the same exact time. You'll see that Brass is moving back and forth between the two of them. So obviously you can only click on one game at a time, but you can let one game play out while you're aiming your other shot. So it is kind of like a tennis match. It's a self-tennis match. You're playing a game with yourself, basically. So like we'll shoot at one, let it play out, and then you're looking at the other one to try to figure out what you want to do. So it's the part of like the Peggle speedrunning meta is if you're really trying to get fast at Peggle speedrunning, you're waiting for a shot to play out because oftentimes they will take a couple seconds each shot. Sometimes you have some really quick ones that might catch you off guard. But shots will often take a few seconds each. So while one's going, you're already planning out your next one exactly where you want to go. Now, if we pull up this shot here in Deluxe, this would be really satisfying. We should get at least 2 slides here. And if done right, we'll get all 3. There we go. This is a fun pixel shot that has a bit of a backstory to it. We also again see the return of Renfield here much later in Deluxe. He plays out earlier in Knights, but is back here in the mid-game of Deluxe. For those of you, as I mentioned, it's a fairly old game, dating myself here. But there was a used to be, I don't want to say used to be, it's just not as prevalent now. People would post things like trick shots or like their maximum scores on YouTube. So there's this entire genre of YouTube videos from like when YouTube was first, opened back in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, of like Peggle trick shots and levels where people would just get like the highest score possible, like 20 million points on a level. And this strategy here for Deluxe 6-1 was actually, we rediscovered it because of the YouTube videos. It was a collaboration between was speedrun as Panaha, Poetry Stud Gaming, and myself. And I apologize if I'm missing anybody else. I can be corrected by. We have a few community members in chat here. Figured out how to recreate that shot really consistently, and there we actually ended up getting all 3 of the slides. Now you won't get 20 million points every single time. That was a combination of a lot of perfect factors coming together. But for speedrunning, we just got rid of a lot of the level in a single shot very quickly. And so that's extremely advantageous for speedrunning. If you can pull that shot off, that is easily like 20 or 30 seconds of time save right there. So, you probably should do that more, actually. There's definitely, like I said, a whole genre of YouTube videos like that from the good old days. Then there's probably some secrets to this game that we still don't know about yet. There are a lot of... This game is changing every day. I myself haven't played Peggle Knights in some time, and with a little internal leaderboard challenge that we have in the community to kind of keep things fun, I had to relearn this entire game basically because in the like 2 or 3 months that I haven't played the game, the strategies changed completely. They were whole different shots, whole different ways to break through levels. And so this game is always evolving, which is, again, it's just really neat how this community is as strong as it is, still adapting the style of gameplay almost every day. Someone's like, oh, I just fired randomly right here and I made this perfect shot, let's recreate it. It turns out to be like a huge time save. So as optimized as these games are, they're always, we're always learning more. So it's really cool about them. It looks like we're about to wrap up levels here, and Knights making good work of some pretty tricky levels here. Knights is pulled quite far ahead of Deluxe. This is a fun level that had some this level was very difficult, but with the advent of some new strats here, we'll see one right here. A very tricky pixel shot to hit, developed by Polypies in our community. Makes quick work of some very hard to hit pegs, and suddenly the level becomes that much more solvable. Now, I don't know if that was a shot on accident or not, if we can get the lore on that one, but oftentimes a lot of these strategies are, we'll just find them, it works cool, and it's cool. We also do have, we have a strat hunter in our community called Smiling Marks. He actually, for all of Peggle Deluxe, ran simulated shots of the game to find what they thought were going to be the best openers. They made these things called heat maps. And we developed a lot of strategies from those. Basically saying if you fire in this spot, you get a really good shot. If you fire like 1 pixel to the right, you get a bad shot. Okay, so let's fire in that spot that got a really good shot. Find out where we can aim. We talked about those pixel shots earlier. For those of you who may have come in since then, we can re-explain those. You'll see them here and there. Actually, I think Brass uses the majority pixel shots. So oftentimes, you'll just kind of shoot randomly onto the board. But this game is deterministic. So it's a physics-based game, right? It's pachinko. So because this game is, from, oh god, well, almost 2 decades ago now, the background art and the pegs themselves aren't the highest resolution. You can see the pixels on them, especially if you have a really good monitor, the right settings for it. You can see individual pixels on the background art and the pegs, which allows you, because the game's deterministic, to fire at the same exact pixel every time, and you'll get the same exact shot every time. If you find a pixel on a level that happens to work well, that becomes a pixel shot. And I didn't catch if we used one there, but the one on 6.4 is pretty nice. Also, we have Tula here, Tula the Sunflower. His power is... It's similar to Splork's, except it only works on the nearest oranges. So as we'll see here whenever we hit one shortly, one of the greens here. Just missed it. Here's another portal level here where it can sometimes get stuck in those loops. This power will hit 25% of the remaining oranges. So it makes for an interesting strategy, where depending on your style of play, so there we go, see how it popped those 3 oranges there? That was 25% of what was left. If the green was hit at the beginning of the level, it would have gotten 5 oranges, because there are 25 orange pegs every single time. If you hit it at the end, this is where it gets different. So in Deluxe, it'll just hit 1 orange left. Think if you have 5 oranges, 25% of that is just 1 orange. In Knights, Tula was actually buffed, and will hit 2 final oranges, so as we'll see Brass do here. Oh, actually snuck past the green and hit the orange there. But Tula would have hit both of those oranges at the same time. Is it 20%? Oh, thank you, folks, for correcting me there in the chat there. Yeah, it's actually 20%. I'm a math major, and I don't even know my numbers. It's 20% of the remaining oranges. So as we can see, they're hitting the green early. Got a lot more oranges than we saw in that first one. So can be advantageous sometimes to either leave the green for the end of the level. If you see an orange in a really bad spot, you know, okay, I'm definitely not going to be able to clear that one easily. I'm going to save those power to hit that one at the end. Or if you just want to go full into the level, hit the green early, and clear out almost half of the oranges in single shots. And we have Tula here in Deluxe as well, both 7- levels. Yeah, one mistake. I probably had a couple mistakes here. I'm good at running the game, I'm not talking about it. Usually hard focused in here, like Brass is right now. So, the levels are pretty fun. Some really good level designs that are they're fun to play, but it can be pretty tricky when it comes to actually running them. Part of these masters' powers that makes them so difficult is that sometimes, you know, again, we talked about strategies. When you have these powers that give you extra... Ooh, if this is a tricky orange here, we'll see how Brass gets this one off. You for a second. There's a bucket shot, a planned bucket shot to get the free ball back to be able to clear out the orange. That's one of those many strategies to help clear up out of a difficult situation to not spend another full minute resetting. Also should have been keeping track of how many losses we've had. I don't know if Knights has reset a level yet, but I believe Deluxe did reset one. I'm trying to remember here. Yeah. And there's a satisfying opener right there. It can be, depending on your style of gameplay. Sorry, I was talking about openers instead. So yeah, the masters will actually interrupt your openers, or they'll interrupt your strategies, and you have to basically think on the fly what's going on. Also, speaking of the background characters on the Peggle art design, this here, this caterpillar in the background of Peggle Deluxe, is our good friend Huey the Caterpillar, named by another one of our community members who actually doesn't play Peggle, just likes to watch the streams. I thought, this guy looks like a Huey. And so, this, I believe, was one of the first background characters that was named. This is Huey the Caterpillar. We already see the chat going off with the plan. Anytime Huey's on screen, we have to say hi to Huey. So if you don't say hi to Huey, the run is cursed. He is our omnipotent god of Peggle and should be respected. We can get a hi Huey from everybody in chat, and hopefully Brass, their mic's not on, but I assume that they gave a hi Huey because they know what happens if we don't.
I will also give a hi Huey.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So now we can finish the run. So we had a bunch of first-time messages just for Huey. This is the way. All right. Bye, Huey. Have a good one. This is how we keep ourselves sane through these runs sometimes. These can be a bit of a slog. You can see that we're 40 minutes in doing a lot of the same actions over and over again in these levels. Thankfully, the varied shape of the levels helps keep things interesting. And again, it's a very satisfying game. It's hard to get bored unless you've been doing this for a while in the same day. And you're like, okay, I'm done with this one for the day. And you just come back to it tomorrow like it's nothing. So, looks like we are still 2 levels behind in Deluxe. So this will be interesting once we get towards the end game. The next split of Peggle Knights is very fun. The next split of Peggle Deluxe is a bit rough. So we might actually see Knights pull ahead here. It's probably one of the most favored masters in the game coming up here for speedrunning. We'll get to him when we get there in a second. Making good work. I think if we... Okay, there's one more orange. We'll get to see Tula's finale power here. If we just hit it anyway, there we go. So those oranges were kind of just scattered around, but a green hit at the end clears it out in an instant. So that's one of the benefits to saving Tula for the end there. Now we have Lord Cinderbottom, which is one of the most fun powers in the game, as we'll see here in a second. Gives you the fireball. Mr. Worldwide here. Whenever he just line up his shot, burns through every single peg that it hits. So it kind of removes the collision from the pegs, which is sometimes for better or worse. If you can just fire randomly, however, you have to keep in mind that unlike the rest of the game, you'll hit pegs, you'll bounce off them into other ones. Cinder will just burn through everything. So when you have level design like these, Cinder's levels are designed very well for Cinder. So we'll see here this shot. Those are some tricky oranges to hit. One shot and they're gone in the perfect line. So, if done right, Cinder can be one of the fastest masters in the game. It can also be one of the most difficult in that same regard because oftentimes you get lost in just plowing through the levels with the fireball that you may realize, oh, I didn't get any free balls back, and suddenly you're at the end of a level, and that's very difficult to finish. So, see some cool tricks here. This is a fun pixel shot right here, rather than setting up in Knights. We'll go all the way up and open up the entire top of the level there. If you fire that same pixel every time, you'll get that same exact shot. So, good stuff there. And we'll see, actually, I completely missed on the left side here in Deluxe. This is one of the trickier levels in Deluxe, and Brass has made perfect work of it. This is often where I lose some of my runs. This level is made almost more for Cinder than Tula, I feel. So Tula's power can be pretty difficult to clear it. But we're about to get to one of chat's favorite powers here shortly in Deluxe, but we won't spoil that yet. We wrap up these really consistent levels here. So this one's nice because if you're a fan of slides, you're a fan of this level on Deluxe. Quick work of this level here. This one in Knights can be pretty tricky, so you can see here taking a pause in Knights to just get off a few quick shots in Deluxe. Switching back real quick to get that shot and then going back to the part of what makes the day and night run so fun is that, again, you're managing two games at the same time. Peggle is a far more focused game than you'd expect, and so when you manage two, there's just quite a lot going on. Yeah, so Knights is now 3 levels ahead. I guess they'll get 2 levels because we just started the 3rd one, but now we have the magic hat. Warren Rabbits, the famous rabbit himself, Rabbit of the Hour. They have the power, not of the magic hat, but of the wheel spin, where you can get a couple different things whenever you hit these greens. This kind of became a meme in the community after Doug and his community really popularized that the hat is either one of the worst or one of the best powers, depending on your perspective. I personally think the hat is one of the best powers, and that Warren is the one that kind of gatekeeps it behind the wheel. Whenever we get a chance, the wheel is already popped here. It actually gave us flippers. It gave us an old power. That's one of the things that you can spin. It's slightly different between Peggle Deluxe and Peggle Knights, but we'll get to that in a moment here. Whenever we hit the green with Warren, we'll get the option to either roll triple your score, which is great for what the game was designed to do, rack up a lot of points. You can get a ball back, you can just get an extra ball for free, which is sometimes pretty nice. You can roll any of the powers you've previously seen. So in Peggle Deluxe, when you're playing through what's called any percent here, which is just starting a new profile and just playing the game normally, you will have the option to get any of the powers you've already seen. So like Tut, Jimmy, Claude, it's like the flippers, the pyramid, the multi-ball. Any of them can pop up whenever you hit that green. Or you can get the magic hat, which is when we'll see when it pops up. Basically gives the ball a hat. There you go. Gives the ball a cool hat, looks fabulous, and then hits extra pegs. It's basically just a little hitbox on top of the ball that doesn't have collision. So it can be very advantageous to get that. However, it is locked behind a 25% chance on that wheel to get. And 8-1 here is also a very difficult level at its best days. So, see how... Ooh, okay, looks like we're resetting 8-1. So now we have a loss in both games here. That's expected. 8-1 is usually, again, where a lot of runs die. It's because this is a very tricky level design. And again, when you're managing difficult levels here, 8-4 is a level that's not really built for Cinder very well. So with this power, be tricky. Can we get that last? Oh, that one's still hidden. Yeah, we'll let Brass focus here. That's a tricky shot. You're just barely buried by that puff of smoke there. It's actually a collision box. And quick work of it. Nice. So soon we'll be moving on to both games having the magic hat at the same time. It's going to be a pretty chaotic part of the run, where you never know what you're going to get. It's going to be fun. See, there's our triple score. So, some filler commentary. This is a good time to talk about what the game was actually intended for, and that wasn't speedrunning at all. This is a game that was actually designed to rack up a lot of points just for fun. As you can see at this point, we have almost 10 million, 12 million points in the game, which is an absurd amount of points. It's just a lot of fun to just, rack up as many points as you can through all these different style shots, the different, get the triple score. If you have like more balls in the level, you get more points back. This was originally designed as a, it's like you could call like a casino style game, where again you're just playing for fun. See how many points can you get once you beat the game. There's an entire subset of the game that we don't even get to see during this run, like the challenges. So there's different types of runs for Peggle. This is just the adventure mode style runs where you play through the game. There's individual masters modes of the games where you can play with a single master the entire time once you've beaten the game normally through any percent here, which is what we're doing. You're forced to pick the master for the level that the game gives you. So like these 5 levels are with Warren, the next 5 levels will be with Cinder, and so on. But you can also pick your masters on later runs of the game. So you can play like as all Warren, you can play as all Cinder, you can play as all Cat Tut if you really want to. It's a bit of an interesting run. You can also do Grandmaster runs, which Brass is actually fairly famous for in our community. Multiple world record holder of the Grandmaster style runs, where you play the game and do all the challenges. Additional ones where you can clear all of the levels entirely. So instead of just beating the levels by getting all the oranges, you can full clear the levels and become an extreme Grandmaster of the game. Mechanics that are built into it because the game is designed to be 100%ed, basically. For those of you who are like completionist fans, this is the type of game for you. And we have a completionist in our community. Brisha is famous for those. Oh, almost got that nice slide there of that J shape. So whatever style of gameplay you like, there's a lot of room for it in Peggle. And again, it's very easy to pick up. Very fun. Time watch Peggle. Yeah, it's a fun game. It's just so fun to watch. Again, it's satisfying. It's fun to watch. This is one of the trickier levels. For Warren Knights is definitely, I think, some of the most tricky split in the game. Deluxe Warren isn't much better. Warren's levels are great because, and I was talking about those other modes you can play. If you play like NG+, which is you can pick any master, or you play like all as like Cinderbottom, the Fireball master, Warren's levels are great, right? You just burn through them, they're not a problem. But yeah, here we go. 8-3 is a fun one. It's gonna be pretty difficult because a lot of times Warren's levels will come down to luck of the wheel. Sometimes you'll roll a very nice power, you'll roll the hat, and it'll be very helpful. Other times you'll roll triple score at the beginning of the run, and then you really just can't do much with it. You don't get a ball back because you don't have your multiplier up. A lot of like little strategies that kind of compound into making this run happen. Now, as I was talking about one of the worst splits in the game, this is, I think, the best level on Knights. Here, there's 2 slides, 3 slides, 4 slides. Beautiful. And oh, just missed the 5th one there. There are some other strategies to get those last slides, but they can be a little more complicated to set up for a fast speed run. So, that again goes back to the game can be very difficult, kind of painful sometimes to speed run, despite still being a blast to play, right? You can get really frustrated with this game and be like, oh, that was still fun. Okay, see, there we go. Here's where the multiplier is coming in handy there in Deluxe. We're down to 1 or 2 last balls here with 4 like rogue oranges. And oh, okay, I think we're just gonna grab it here. We have a mixture of the flippers and the hat for an interesting balance there. We saw that because the multiplier is up to ×10, we hit a couple pegs and got a ball back, easy. Then we got some weird combination of having the flippers and the magic hat, leading to this really neat sort of oof at the end. I'm gonna say, yes, my audio can be a little bit scratchy sometimes. This is also the game audio as well. And then we go from that to one of the harder levels in Knights. This one's pretty rough. This is a level that's had multiple iterations of strategies throughout I almost said years. I guess it kind of has been at this point. It's been at least 2 years. I'm really strong in the community, but it's been around for a lot longer than that. From the days of the original Strat Hunters, like Phoenix Bros and all them, to some of the newer ones these days. Again, this game is always changing with the strategies. Again, this game is deterministic, so you can plan out taking the same shots every time to help break open a level. Both of these levels here, 8-4 and 9-4, to keep track of them. The commentary was good. It's a good quality, just not a good physical quality. But, talking about these games here. Yeah. So you can do the same shot every time if you have a level that's difficult to open. Areas that are very hard to, yeah, jinxed it there, yeah. So you can do the same opener shot to open up the level, and then from there, that's when you start picking up and improvising. Even if you know an opener is not going to really help you out, in terms of like getting the orange pegs, which is the objective of the level, it can still clear a lot that will help you out otherwise. Yeah, it has been... I don't want to call it a short amount of time, but yeah. I'm trying to remember, I believe like 2020, 2021 was when I believe the community was really first picking up steam. And then it was late in 2022 that was, oh my god, it really only has been there, yeah. Where the, yeah, it was okay, it was late 2021, early 2022 when we really picked up steam. That's when, thank you, Fo, yeah. When I joined back in last March. There's been a lot of evolution in the game. We've had a lot of major events as well that have really made this feel like so much longer than it's been. Yeah, we've had a couple internal competitions we've come up with. The most famous one within the community is probably the Peggle Battle Royales, which is just, we had this idea for how can we make Peggle more fun, right? Like the leaderboards are fun, but you know, we're a community. What can we come together and do as a community? And that sparked the idea of the Peggle Battle Royales, which were a competition where basically you would play Peggle, nothing special there, all at the same time with a bunch of people. I believe our first event had almost 100 people in it. And you'd play like a leg of the game. You'd play like the first 5 or so masters. And then the slowest couple at the end of that would get eliminated. And then you would slowly wind down to whoever was left and grant a victor. We've done a couple of these since then. That was back in June of last year, yeah. We had like any percent, we had a Magic Hat version, which actually had a tie, a frame-perfect tie at the end of the run with myself included. A little bit of a humble brag. But some of the wild things that can happen in this game. We also went to GDQ last year, which was really cool. Was it last year? No, that was this year. Sorry, again, time flows weirdly in Peggle. Talking about the tie. It's cool. Peggle was a fun game. A lot of weird stuff happens in this cute little game. Yeah. Went to GDQ with this game. We've had a lot of attention drawn to this game. It's fun because a lot of us, I can speak for a lot of us here, when we grew up playing this game. Again, this is from back in 2007, 2008. And you know, I played this game a lot as a kid. And then you kind of go through that gap where you kind of forget the game exists. And then coming back as an adult, and you're like, whoa, Peggle, I remember that. And it's just this whole new life into the game. It's just, I think a lot of people rediscover as well. You know, you hear a lot of people like, oh, wait, I've never heard of Peggle, or oh my god, I haven't heard of that game in so long. They watch it, and suddenly we're all having fun with it again. We've gotten a large amount of flippers with this Magic Hat split here. It's kind of funky. Plot really wants the spotlight here. There's a lot of charm to this game and to the speedruns, even though they can be pretty frustrating sometimes when you're trying to play through these high levels. This is going to be interesting here for the Knights more, and this is a tricky level. These very slow-moving circles here. We can... Oh! Almost perfectly... Oh, not the bucket either. Yeah, sometimes this is down to the luck aspect. There we go. Now this should give us a free ball back and the other orange. This is one of those strategies here. We can see that because that purple... I don't think we talked about the purple yet. So the purple peg will move around the board. As we can see here, we just had it. We just got rid of it. But it's back, actually perfectly in that other circle. Oh, and we missed it, but hitting the purple will grant us a free ball by boosting the points. As we can see, yes, now it's back on the left again. Which allowed us to get a free ball and clear the level. I almost did without trouble, but Brass is seasoned very well. He knows what he's doing. In these rough situations where it looks like the level's a lost cause, there's always a way out of it. Maybe with a bit of luck, but a bit of hope you can do it. All right, and now we've moved on to Master Who I mentioned earlier in the run, is now here in full force. And you also finished up the war levels in Deluxe. So we're actually now a full split behind Deluxe, which means that if every level was played at pace, both games might actually finish at the same exact time. So no pressure, but good luck. So, and we can see that Cinderbottom is now here in Deluxe. These are some really fun levels as well. Again, Cinder is just a very overall consistent, fun master to play. So Master Who's power on the right side in Knights, who we'll see in Deluxe here in the next split, we are getting towards the end game. There are just 2 individual masters left in both games, and then we have the masters levels, which we'll get to. They're their own breed of challenge and gameplay once we get there. Master Who's power is essentially an aimbot. What they do is, we'll see here, the Zen Ball. When you aim a shot, it'll simulate more shots around that same area. I don't know the exact degrees that it goes, like, I believe like 5 or so degrees both directions. See, okay, which shot will give you the most points? Then it'll adjust for that and then take that shot instead of the one that you picked. Unless it likes your shot. Sometimes you'll see it'll flash up with a no improvement on the board. That's a sign that, you know, your shot was perfect, and sometimes it's very validating to see. But here I believe we're gonna see some free ball skills. This is an interesting strategy here. Oh, and unfortunately, full time to bounce off of that peg went the other direction. Sometimes it happens in this game. So yeah, the benefit and the curse sometimes. Who and I are not on the best of terms because, again, this is a points-based game. So Who's power is 140% more Zen. You know, the shot that Brass took was actually could be a little bit better, as Who said, and he kind of readjusted it to get more points. You know, in terms of speedrunning the game, we had a good shot, but in terms of getting points, the shot could have been better. So when you're trying to speedrun the game, you might be able to put 2 and 2 together here. Sometimes Who will actually sabotage your shots and go for points over a good clear of the level. And when you're trying to speedrun the game, that's not the best. You know, if you're playing for points, it's great. But he will often, and especially for me, you know, I have this happen more often than not, he'll completely throw a shot to go for that like purple peg to rack up some points and leave you behind with an unclearable level that's, you know, incredibly difficult to do. So he can be very good, one of the best masters in the game, especially for beginners, because he will help you adjust your shots. It's not that he'll take a bad shot most of the time. It's just that he will adjust your shots to get more points, which again can help with like getting a ball back and stuff. But if you're not super confident in your shots, he's a good master to pick, and will, more often than not, he will help. It's just sometimes when you're in a clutch moment that you really need some help, he may or may not oblige. So this is a cool opener here. We'll see. I see if Brett's going to do both here. So that will clear the top part. And then if timed properly, this next shot should take a whole chunk of that bottom side as well. Oh, and there's a good shot. See if it goes all the way. Will it go all the way? Oh, just barely not. Thankfully, still open it up and get the last orange over on Deluxe. It's a nail biter there. You'll get those a lot where, again, the level looks fine, and then you'll like snap back to reality and be like, oh, no, there's like barely anything left here. Okay, now this is a fun level for Cinder here, because you can see that these pegs look almost impossible to hit. They're no problem for the fireball. This is what makes those individual Masters runs we were talking about earlier, how you can play the entire game as like Cat Tut, or like Jimmy if you'd like. But levels like this are explicitly designed for Cinder. So you'll see here, this type of shot, this wall shot, where we get a perfectly timed bucket into the center here. Quick work is otherwise really difficult to hit pegs. If you're trying to do that with somebody other than Cinder, this level becomes one of the worst in the game, because you have to get into those areas yourself. So, playing the game differently, there's different strategies for even just different styles of gameplay. Again, even though it's the same exact maps every time. The powers can help, sometimes hinder, your way through these games. That was a good shot from Who there, just missing one final orange that we could hit pretty easily. This is the donuts level. This one's infamous for if you don't pay attention on this level, it looks very easy. It's very simple, but can throw you off. A lot of runs die here when they shouldn't, because people will often not pay attention. I'm calling myself out here a lot. Often, again, with Cinder's power, you can sometimes just get lost in the sauce. It's really fun, and then you're like, oops, I'm actually speedrunning this game, and I just lost the level very quickly. So, it's pretty difficult in that regard, where sometimes you have a bit too much fun with the game, and then you forget that I actually have to like really focus on the level sometimes. And then, oops, there it goes. Run's dead. But again, you just start it back up and just keep going. Fun of it. Oh, almost a nice shot there. Getting a horizontal shot with Cinder to try to clear those oranges on the bottom. Unfortunately, we're going to have to get these shots off of the wall. That's pretty simple ones. There we go. Good donuts clear. And we also pay some homage in the background there. I should have said this earlier, but the background art of that level does feature my good friend Bookworm, a PopCap game that was also a lot of the PopCap games from that era of like the late 2000s. A couple of them do get some homage throughout these games in their background art. I believe like Chuzzle is actually featured earlier in the game as well, some of the background art. So it's kind of cute that PopCap they sort of, I'm not entirely sure what has happened there. We're going to reset the level. Unfortunately, we don't have columns from brass there. It was a bad opener that we got the fireball too early. But levels like these are, again, going to go for a shot here. They look very difficult, but for Cinder, it's clear. So, oftentimes it is advantageous, so even though you think of, when you're speedrunning, you don't want to lose levels, it is advantageous sometimes to reset levels. If you notice that it's not going well, and you think, oh, I don't want to reset because I want to beat the level. If you don't reset and lose, it's more time wasted. So you're always kind of mentally running, especially on these late game levels, because at the beginning of a run, it's like, oops, okay, I can lose this level, it's been 5 minutes, it's fine. And you can see we're already an hour and 10 minutes into this game. You don't want to lose levels, because if, obviously this is a marathon, so this run's not going to end. But if you get to like a run ending point where you're not going to, beat your time, you're like, oh man, there goes an entire hour because I lost one level, right? So there's a bit of a mental game as well once you get to this point of the run where you're thinking, oh man, like, do I really push this level and make some difficult shots and that was a really good bucket shot there in Deluxe. Sometimes, again, there's a luck aspect to this. You'll get some really neat shots that are just kind of like, oh, here we go. Those difficult ones to hit are now just gone. Easy. There's like sort of a mental game as well to, and then you get stressed out because you're getting close to your, personal best. You may get a good time here, and then you still have to keep the levels going. That's the speedrunner's curse, is staying focused, getting to that flow state so you end up not losing the levels at the most critical points. So, and again, the game gets more difficult as we go on here. And we are seeing one of the, I mentioned way back at the beginning of this run, one of the difficult run-ending, almost stratless levels. These have some strategies when you're playing with other masters, but in the any percent mode, both of these levels take place in the Who's split, so we'll see the one in Deluxe is a bit more infamous than this one here. In Knights, this 10-5, Feel the Noise. It's not often that Peggle levels get referred to by their name, as opposed to just the number, like, oh yeah, new strat for 7-2. Oftentimes it's because the levels are infamous for constantly being mentioned. This is Feel the Noise, which we actually know its name fairly well, because it's often a run ender. It's a very difficult level with a lot of moving pegs, not a great shape for developing any openers. If you try to take the same shot every time, you're going to have these very minimally moving, or these very minimally moving peg. That's a tongue twister. Will basically just throw off your shots. So it often does come down to a lot of just knowing how you play, being ready to adapt to shots, trying to forward think, okay, like if there's buried oranges, I need shots to get a lot of blue pegs along the way. Don't just try to hit oranges. A lot of planning that goes into these types of levels that we really can't strategize, to get the same types of shots every time. There's the other side of the strategy of just knowing general game mechanics, how to get free balls, how to fire one peg so it definitely hits another one. However, we made perfect work of Feel the Noise there. So that was a really nice clear. That level often trips up a lot of even the best players. And we'll see that again here in Deluxe in a few moments. This level can be tricky. That little barber pole in the middle, blocking that last orange down there in the bottom. And we're down to one ball. So we'll see how Brass handles this. It looks like they're going to take some time to get some work done in Knights, though. This is Marina. However, okay, we're going to go to Deluxe. We'll be quiet here. Focus. Free ball. See what we can do here. This is a tricky spot. Okay, and then we're going to try to chain this orange into the one below it. Oh, and unfortunate. Those are very difficult shots to hit. As you'll notice, whenever you hit one of the pegs up high, you'll get that little indicator that shows you where exactly you're hitting. Through experience, you can kind of figure out where you're going to, if you hit a peg a certain way, and remember, it's physics, right? So if you understand how it's going to bounce off of one peg into another, you're pretty set. However, at the bottom of the level, that indicator does not reach all the way. This is where Bjorn can come in handy, helping you reach that area. Otherwise, you kind of are just aiming out into the void. And so you have to trust that where you're aiming is the correct spot to aim. And sometimes those pixel perfect differences, pun unintended for this event, will have these slight, you think you're in the right spot, but you're slightly off, and that'll lead to missing what is otherwise a very important level saving shot. So that just comes down to being a very difficult shot that unfortunately, it's just difficult to hit. And it looks like 11-1 here is done, so we'll explain Marina's power here in a moment once we get to the next level. Marina is the last master to be introduced in both of these games. There are other Peggle masters in the other games, but in terms of Deluxe and Knights, we have reached our full roster here. So Marina's power is an Electro Bolt, which is actually not featured in Deluxe. Who is the last master in Deluxe? And the extra 5 levels in Knights come from Marina having these 5 levels. Oh boy, we're here's our famous water break, if you will. We call this the crawl. The Deluxe has one of these as well, but it's kind of harder to hit. This design here, this Ouroboros level, sometimes the peg will get stuck, and it will literally just get stuck. For an event like this, it's pretty fun. It's actually kind of cool to showcase what can happen during a run, something like this. You'll notice that burnt about 30 seconds just sitting there. But if you're speedrunning this game, outside of an event, that can almost be a run killer, depending on how you are doing in the game so far. As we're going to see here, the Electro Bolt basically fires in a straight line down to the bucket. So, there we go. Very nice chaining together of all those things in that line. Otherwise, some harder to hit ones at the bottom were also hit at the same time as the easy ones to hit at the top. So, what's nice about this power as well is that if you'll notice, there's a subtle glow to all the pegs. That means those are the ones that it's going to hit. So Marina's power is pretty easy to use. It's very beginner friendly, and one of the fastest in Knights as well. Fortunately, her levels are very difficult. Again, we're talking about the end game here. These are some very tricky levels. Even with good masters, can still be quite a pain. Also very long. In terms of speedrunning this game, as you'll notice, most levels tend to be about a minute or so. Marina's levels can often be up to like a minute and a half per run, just because even with some of the best strategies, they still just take so long to burn through. This does complete the entire roster of the game. However, each game will have 5 more levels after these splits. So we'll get to what those are going to look like once we get there. They're called the master levels. This is a fun level. This is a cool strategy here. These levels are designed... Oh, just quite missed it. I think, okay, yeah, Brass is going to reset here to try to get this shot. At least... Okay, we're going for an alternate version. This is another strategy called a down shot. Or just like when we say we can aim at the same pixel every time, it does the same thing. You can aim over the picture of the master at the top. You can see Brass's cursor is actually up on Marina's face right there. And it will actually, because of the position, the game is like, it thinks the cursor is in this like weird, perfectly centered state. If you aim in that rough spot every time, the cursor will always be perfectly straight down. So you can tap left or right from that, and basically, just like a regular opener to the left or the right, a down shot, which should, unfortunately, just missed the timing to get into that there. So we're gonna give it a few more tries here to try to get into there, because this level is very difficult unless you are able to get inside of these little spirals here, these little bubbles from these volcanoes. We went through it. In one ear, out the other. Basically, it just rides the whole way up and clears all those pegs. Looks like we're going for a more direct shot here into it. This is tricky to hit, so it looks like we're going to try to showcase this here. It makes the level very easy to get. At least if you get one of these, then that's one less thing to worry about in the level. Yeah, these can be a bit of a stinker sometimes, trying to get the timing into there. We're making slow work on Deluxe as well. This is a famous portal level. Actually, yeah, we should talk about this level for a little bit. This is a level design that gets reused in the Masters levels. We went for a... There we go. That was a... There's the shrug there. I finally got on the left side after the first try. Sometimes it takes a change of frame of reference. Okay, so real quick, Deluxe level, we can see here that that right side is actually entirely inaccessible unless you go through the portal. So we have openers designed that should get every peg, or at least mostly every peg on that side. Unfortunately, one of the pegs that it doesn't hit is orange, but there we go. Pretty aimed shot through the portal, back out of the beehive, and gets it. It's one of those gimmick levels where the only way to beat that level is to go through the portal, because you will always have oranges on that side, outside of like a extremely lucky generation, if it's even possible. Yeah, back to Knights, there. So once you clear one of them, you can use the Electro Bolts on the other ones, perfectly designed to just wipe out the other side of the little bubble volcano there. Just making good time here. So yeah, now this 10-4 is a pretty difficult level. It can wildly swing either way. Looks like he's going to help out pretty well there. And we'll see what he does on this next one. Oh, yeah, okay, he stuck it in there. Nice. So there was a risk there with that shot. So remember how we were talking earlier that who will often just go for points over anything else? So he really likes that purple peg. That one there, because that's the point boost. So it'll give you, it's 10 times the amount of points if you hit it. So that shot there to try to get into where all those oranges were, if it was slightly to the left, it would have bounced out and hit the purple and a couple blues, and it would have missed the oranges entirely. Who actually decided, through his little aimbot calculations, to go into the oranges instead, which is what you want to see for these speedruns. You want to see him actually cooperate with us and be like, yes, he actually got the points, he helped us out, rather than being a bit greedy and going for just the points and leaving us with the otherwise difficult to clear level. And now, the famous Zenfrog. Every Peggle community member in the chat right now probably just cringed at the same time with the disturbance in the force here as we arrive at the famous level here. This run is notorious not only for being a run killer, but also the fact that it's occurring this late in the game. Most speedruns, actually 120 is a pretty good time for both games. So getting them playing at the same time is actually really good. This would be a cool time here. Difficult to beat level because of all these moving pegs. If you're familiar with Peggle, we do have a similar level design to this in the Masters, the Helix level. Those helixes are together. You know, if you get stuck in the helix, you can just ride it all the way back up to the top and you're fine. Here, not so much. You have these entirely separate helix shapes, single helixes, RNA, I believe, DNA, that'll, you'll hit one and then it'll just bounce off and you're lucky if it hits another one. So this can be very difficult because at this point you're stressed, you're near the end of the game, you want to be done, and you're faced with one of the most difficult levels in the game that is almost entirely impossible to strategize. Now you can use, like, if you're talking about those individual master runs, Cinderbottom makes really good work at this level because he just burns through all those pegs if you do like a shot off the wall. Claude is surprisingly good at this level because he can get stuck and just keep hitting every single peg on the sides. And boom, perfect clear of that level as well. So almost an uncommon. You like to see both games 10-5, Feel the Noise and Zenfrog are very difficult levels. So the fact that we cleared them both first try is actually nuts. So showcase to Brass's talent in this game. All the practice pays off. Especially beating them both at the same time like that. So now we are getting into, actually both games have now entered the Masters split at the same exact time. So remember we were talking about how Knights was a full split ahead? Technically is still a split ahead, but both games now only have 5 levels left. So that's kind of the weird, it's hard to follow the day and night sometimes because you're like, well, wait, Knights is ahead, but it's also the same. because these are the master levels. So the last 5 levels in the game, and they're kind of like, if you think of this like, it's a Peggle Institute, right? You're learning how to play the game. This is your final test. This is every master is available to you. You can pick whoever to play, but the levels are pretty difficult. So we have Cyclone on the right side here. This is probably one of the most difficult ones. I personally think the Knights ones are more difficult, but I have a lot of experience with the Deluxe ones. All 10 of these levels across both games are very difficult. Cinder Bottom is often a pick for these levels because they often feature a lot of bricks in the way, very difficult shots to hit, and Cinder can just burn through them. And there you go, there's the first one done. This is either a fantastic level or your worst nightmare, depending on your preference here. Deluxe 11-2, because it's all slides. To get the slides, you have to hit pixel-perfect shots for every single one of them, or just get lucky. So, it's very interesting. Now, often you can get fairly lucky. It is easy to get lucky on that level, but once it starts to open up, it becomes very difficult because you have these shots that nothing will intuitively bounce into another thing because every peg is angled the same way. It sounds nice on the surface. There's Cyclone done, which is good. One of the hardest ones out of the way. Another pixel shot to get that slide. We have not another one there. Okay. So we're using Cinder here, again, because we're just going to burn through that level once it happens. Switching to Marina for 12-2 and Knights. See why here. This level is not actually great for Cinder. It's alright for Cinder. But Cinder often depends on being able to bounce off the bucket or the walls easily to get known shots. Here we can see we have these physical bumpers in the way at the bottom that make Cinder a very difficult pick over in Knights. Whereas a level like Deluxe here, it's wide open. So, shot off the wall. And for those of you at home who want to play this game, those types of shots there with Cinder Bottom are actually very easy to recreate. They are just a mouse cursor all the way up to the left or the right once you have the fireball. Then take the shot once the bucket hits the other side of the level. So you may see it again here on a different level. I think we did just use the last wall fireball to run though. But all these shots are recreatable for anybody. Obviously, just take a little bit more practice to be able to pull them off regularly on runs. But again, very beginner-friendly game. Even these most difficult levels, almost anybody can pick up with enough practice. That's 11-2 done. Deluxe is pulling slightly ahead. Or it looks like we do have a very good generation for Marina here. Again, we can see that difficult to hit orange down there. Oh, it looks like it's just going to miss. We're going to opt for a different line. There. That one is very hard to hit. Those ones under the bumpers are very difficult. We actually have none on the left side, which is pretty cool. That brass will wrap up 12-2 there. And then we have 11-3, which is probably one of my least favorite levels in the game. I think I speak for a lot of people as well. This is it's a fairly good run killer. It's it's the slowest master level in Deluxe because it combines inaccessible level with the portal mechanic. Except the portal is moving now. That UFO, it goes through the portals of the tops of the levels, then pops out the UFO while it's moving. So you not only have to aim your shots and time them perfectly, but you also have to time them perfectly with a moving source, right? So you see, we just had a shot that just went completely into the ether right there, because unfortunately, timed UFO just spit it out right there. So you can, with practice, learn these, but again, it's very difficult to just know what it's going to do, because even the most minute changes into the portal will affect how it pops out. There's a small hole there that can hopefully grab. Oh, okay, that's good. With the free ball back, okay, looking good. We'll jinx it, but we are in a better position than we just were. Again, showing how dynamic this run can be. You can go from looking at a bad spot to a really good one pretty quickly. 12-3 is almost exclusively designed for Marina. It's suits her power very well. We'll make very quick work of the level here. In individual Masters runs, this one can be very, very difficult. Oh! That's unfortunately a time shot there. So we'll see. Thankfully, that middle was pretty easy to hit. So we're going to focus on 11-4 now. This level can be difficult, but there's some nicely timed shots. So there's, again, we have some inaccessible areas and a giant bumper in the middle that we can't hit around. Pretty straightforward level other than that. There's another pixel shot. Actually, that is a variant of the pixel shot I don't believe we talked about. That is a glint shot. You can see on every single peg, there's sort of like a white light glint up on like the top left corner of the peg. Turns out, if you hit a lot of those areas, they actually lead to good shots. So the glint shot is a type of pixel that's a bit easier to pick up because you're literally just aiming at the brightest spot of the peg every single time. So, beginner-friendly pixel shot, as opposed to the more difficult ones that are just kind of like a single background pixel. Now we enter the end of Deluxe. This is the infamous Helix, and Brass is actually going for the one-shot strategy here. Let's see if they can pull it off. Okay, so this level has been strategized many different ways. Center bottom here is the nice pick. Okay, because the fireball with a nicely timed bucket bounce can clear the entire thing. Splork's another good pick because remember that Splork was from the beginning of the game. They can pull apart the level of Ruth in the Hat because we got the meme. So close. But here what we're actually doing is a strategy, probably to kill time, to let Knights catch up just a little bit because it looks cooler for an event. We're trying to get this one-shot strategy that was designed by Faux Passerby. There is if you fire at this glint here that Brass keeps aiming at, it's a perfectly timed bucket based on the aligning of the pixels. It's very difficult to hit. It's a frame-perfect shot, and there are only 2 or 3 frames that work for this. Okay, now we're just going for Cinder, yeah. So, it's a very difficult shot to hit, and you'll often spend a lot of time just sitting there resetting for it. So it's not super viable in runs. However, in runs where you don't have Cinder or Splork as an option, it sometimes is advantageous if you're really going for time save to go for that strategy. I was the one who often used it a lot more in runs than other people. So I've lost runs to attempting that before. So it's a very high risk, high reward strategy as opposed to other ones that involve like a consistent way to break into the side of the helix so that you can basically pop in and then ride it all the way up. You can see, unlike Zenfrog earlier, helixes come together. So you can get this nice shot to ride all the way up the inside and just clear the entire thing in one go. Maybe it takes a couple shots to get there. Oh, come on, get that timing. Oh no, it's so close. We're adjusting one tap at a time, so one of these is gonna work. Hopefully. Oh, come on! Oh no! Oh, unfortunately, that can happen, yeah. We actually did not die of the coin there, which is a famous way to lose levels in Peggle there, as we saw that every time the shot was missed where you didn't hit a single peg, that coin flip popped up. And miraculously, we got several good coin flips in a row. That's basically the game saying, I'm going to give you a second chance. And more often than not, the game has a twisted sense of humor and will make you lose your last ball, and there goes the level. You'll get that coin flip on any shot that misses any single pegs. But when it happens at the end of a level, it's particularly stressful because you're down to one shot, one orange, you just missed it, and you lose it. That sucks. Again, that's just part of the game. It is. We're best going to try to full clear here. Let's see. But making good work, as we saw there, those fireballs pop up and down with a nicely timed bucket that makes quick work of the helix. Marina is a good pick for 12-4 here. 12-4 is one of the worst levels. We talked about Cyclone being a bad one. This is a bad one as well. It's because there's so many bricks. So many things that are hidden that even a really good master can still struggle to hit everything. And there's, okay, that problem peg from last time, cleared it out, we're good. I believe Brass is trying to full clear here. So, it's like fairly easy work. Yeah, just a direct shot there, and that time, nice lucky bounce, make it easier. And now we're also on the last level. Oh, almost cutting that close there. So yeah, when you're trying to full clear the levels, there's this sort of meta to it, where when you're beating the level, you're trying to fully clear it, but getting all the oranges also clears the level. So there's this fun game of trying to full clear the level while saving one more orange so that you don't accidentally clear the level early. And then you lose your entire progress on clearing the level. And as we saw there with a couple close attempts, we did have a second orange, which was nice, but we got pretty close to almost losing there. Looks like, are we gonna save the final shot together? So yeah, this is Shadow Shine, a level famous for easily losing unless you have strats. However, there are lots of strats, and even with strats, it's still very difficult because of these weird angles. There's almost no direct shots you can make. I'll have to be banks or like off these bumpers here. Here's a pretty good one to try to get some tricky ones at the bottom. Perfect shot there. So this is a nice wrap-up end. If you'll notice, this is actually a nice end. The games kind of flow together very well. If you remember, Deluxe started off, the background art was very bright, sunny, early in the day, and then it kind of went to this dark space theme. And then Peggle Nights is now, as you can see, we've slowly the sun is back, right? So there's this cool little theming. Again, it's what makes, there's a lot of charm to these games, is that even though we don't focus on it too much while we're speedrunning, a lot of us do have a nice appreciation for, the background of the game, the characters of the game. A lot of heart went into these games. That makes them as fun as they are to play. And with just missed times bucket, both games end at the same time. A 134, I believe, an 18, giving us a summary of both games at the same exact time. And 134. Let me check the leaderboard. Oh, okay, that's a close second place time on the board. So very strong time. Again, running both games, that's a nice PB from Brass as well. Again, running both games at the same time is very difficult. So the fact that you can beat them in about the average time it takes to beat one game is absurd. So GG's to Brass for pulling off this feat that a lot of people are too scared to do. Just kidding. It's really fun. You should try it. It is daunting though. And I believe that'll wrap us up. I don't think, unless Brass wants to try to hop back into comms here, I think that will wrap us up. Is there anything else you wanted to talk on? Oh, welcome back.
Hey. Okay. So yeah, that was quite a run. I hope everyone who was watching enjoyed it. It has been quite a while, but I'm noticing that we're way we've gone way underestimate. That was kind of something that I figured could happen since, of course, given the nature of this run, the estimate is just a very
Yep. Peggle is a fickle beast, yeah. It can very easily go way over as well.
Mm-hmm. So anyhow, if the guys need me to do something to fill the time, I have an idea for what I can do. That will probably take 20 minutes or so.
I'm not against it.
I think I know what it is.
I realize I'm probably gonna need a few minutes to switch some sources around, so
That's okay. You want me to hop it to intermission for a second for you?
Yeah, for a few minutes, that's fine.
Yeah, sure.
No, I can't do it.
Oh,
No?
no. Volker Zenfrog.
No.
Oh no.
What I was gonna do is I was thinking of doing Extreme plus WoW in the same fashion as this, but we don't have no pulse mods of that. So
yeah.
Again,
Do a decathlon.
It's okay.
Off a mini category.
Uh,
Do 2 decathlons at the same time. That might be a bit too long for 20 minutes.
I don't. I don't know. I don't feel.
You don't feel comfortable?
I don't feel super confident coming up with another thing that's actually gonna work.
Yeah, that's okay. No, we can just switch over. I'll just get our next runner in, which is SM MIDI, if that's okay with you guys.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty.
Any last things that you want to tell us? Promotions?
So-
Thank
Go play-
the amazing
go play
Peggle
Peggle.
community.
Go play Peggle.
Big shout
Fun,
outs.
it's cheap.
Big shout outs to the rest of the Peggle community. Every time I do like an online run, they're just showing up in droves. That's always great to see.
Yeah, you got
And,
a lot of love in chat.
Mhm. Join us.
So yeah, I think, of course, both of us are gonna be streaming a bit more normal Peggle runs.
Yep, we got a lot of plans for.
On our
Peggle, it's a game has a lot of potential.
on our usual channel, and so if you want to see like something that's really well optimized and can actually like takes a high effort in a different way, then of course you can check out any of the current active Peggle runners.
Yes, yeah. Brad specializes in like the long endurance type runs of like the Grandmasters we were talking about. It's like very challenge based on a lot of like long term planning. I like to do a lot of like the sprint type levels. So you'll have like Peggle Extreme Scott Person that takes 3 minutes to play. So for as variety as we have in the community, everyone kind of has their own niche that they really like to do. So even as just a casual viewer of the game, there's a lot to offer that this game has. So very fun little game.
Well, for sure, if you
We are
can
happy
play it
to
like
present it.
yeah, and if you can play it like this, like 2 screens together, can you even do 3 Peggle games at once? That's going to be the next
I'm
challenge.
planning on doing 4 at some point.
Wow,
We're
that's
gonna see how it goes. But yeah, I gotta warm up to that.
is that day, night, dusk, and dawn?
Yeah, so it's probably gonna be the same games, like 4 of the same game, like Deluxe, just to make it mentally easier.
Right.
But
right.
yeah, it's just with the advent of some slight modding to the game, more avenues have opened up to fun things like this.
Right, right.
There's runs where like if you hit the purple, it'll reset the board for you, and there's a lot of things to keep the games fun.
Well,
Excuse
everyone,
me, yeah.
follow Helios if you want to see that happening, and of course follow our runner Brass Beat, and definitely check out the Peggle community. That was a very cool run and great commentary by you, Helios.
Thank you. It was actually my first time doing that, so that was cool.
Well, that was great.
Yeah,
That can only go better.
I could only like tune in for like the first 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Before,
Yeah, you got to rewatch that. It was really good, really good.
I hate to sound on my own voice, but yeah, it's cool. Thank you. It's very different talking about a game. It's like things that you just know intuitively. It's kind of fun to be like, whoa, like there's actually a lot to this game that you don't think about all the time. You just kind of think about like when you're running the game, it's very different to just be completely locked in that flow state of just like knowing everything what to do.
Right.
Just talking about it. Fun.
All right, I think I'm gonna need to sign off our host, Fox Rocks. I think unfortunately she didn't expect you to to be done this quick because I haven't heard from her. So that will be it for Fox Rocks. Thank you very much for hosting for us. Obviously. Yeah, lovely hosts. They just misjudged the time a little bit, and now it's a bit late at their end. So, they probably just I don't think they fell asleep, but they probably just tuned off, and then they were like, "Oh, right, it's gonna be ending in 20 minutes," and then in 20 minutes they will pop in, and it's like, "Oh, it's already ended."
Yeah.
Oh,
that's the beauty of Peggle. It can be either really quickly or like just drag on sometimes.
and breastfeed just being too good, That's what that is. All right, I'm signing you guys off because we're going to get ready for the next run, which is Super Little Acorns 3D Turbo by SME. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna do a short intermission, get him ready, and we'll be back with you. Say goodbye.
So yeah,
good day and have a good one.
Yeah, good luck on the rest of the marathon.
Thank you.